Welcome to this edition of Morgan the Asked For podcast. Ryan and Trevor here. Um, Name of this one is going to be Cyclone Disaster because they just got beat at Oklahoma State as a 14.5 point favorite. I think they led 3-0, and then after that they trailed the entire game. I think it got up to at least 15. Was about 10 most of the game. They made a little run right at the start of the second half, and then they got it to 4. I think it was 66-62, and then Oklahoma State went back-to-back buckets to get it right back up to 8 and just kind of kept it 4-6 the rest of the way. Again, Iowa State's not at full strength. When everybody plays, they've got one loss, but they've got, unfortunately, Milan missed 7 games, and now Gilbert's missed 2. Curtis Jones missed 1. So I believe that's 7 losses on the year now. And that is it's a few too many. Just that simple. This is one you can't have. And then the home game against Kansas State. Those are the two that you look back and you just say you can't have those two. Those are two teams right about 500, lower part of the Big 12. Those are the ones you can't have if you're a top 10 team fighting for a 2-3 seed. Most of the bracketologists today had Iowa State as a 2 seed. A couple of them had them as a 3. ESPN, CBS had them 2. I think USA Today might have had them as a 3. I think is what I saw today. But just you're encouraged by some. Nate Heisey, who when Milan was out, couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, hit 3 threes tonight, hit several the other night. So you're encouraged by his play, but just not enough from everybody else.
Yeah, I was going to try to watch the game. This is going to be probably the first Iowa State game I was going to watch this season, kind of getting into March Madness mode. And then it was on, I think it was on ESPN Plus, so I couldn't get it. But I saw their last game and this game, they've had some players out. Now, are these, you tell me, are these injuries that are going to linger into the tournament, or are these just short-term type things going on right now?
I think short-term, if you sat Curtis Jones, who played tonight, was sick the other night, which if you can kind of, sorry if I'm a little nasally, my nose is a little plugged and everything, just the whole world is sick right now, it seems like. So, he's our leading scorer. He didn't play against Houston. Keyshawn Gilbert, second leading scorer, point guard, muscle strain. And you can kind of tell going back. I think it's something he probably could play through, but you're getting to a point in the season now where, yes, you want to win all these games. Yes, you want to do this and that, but ultimately it doesn't matter. What happens in the NCAA tournament is all that matters for this season for Iowa State. You need to get to the Sweet 16, at least Elite 8, Final 4. Those two are kind of the expectations of this year's team. And so if you can sit him out for 10 days, but he's healthy in the rest of March, I think it's maybe worth sacrificing these 2 games. Now, this is a game with or without him. You should not lose this game. The Houston game, with everybody 100%, you might lose that game. I mean, Houston's really, really good. And you played them really tough without him. So I don't think this is a season ender or something that's going to – I mean, it's going to be something that bothers him. I mean, as a muscle strain, it's not going to get healthy this time of year. But nobody's healthy this time of year. It's just the way you've played, 30 games or whatever it is, 32 games now. And it's just the way it is. But if you get through this week and next week, and then comes the Big 12 tournament, so you aren't playing as much. The Big 12 tournament could be 3 games in 3 days or whatever, but then you got another week, and then it's a game and a day off, a game and a day off, then a week off, so you're going to have some time coming up that you haven't had. But, just really disappointing tonight. They did not shoot free throws very well tonight. They ended up, I think, losing by 6 or 8. I don't know if that last dunk counted for them or not. It was close. And that's what's so frustrating about betting on basketball compared to other sports is they stole the ball with 1 second left or whatever, and he goes in, shoots a layup, and it matters if that counts or not. Now, not in this game because the spread was Iowa State 14.5. But those are the games that you got a 4.5 point spread or a 3.5, and those last second buckets that mean nothing on wins and losses of the game for the teams, but it means everything for, as Brent Musburger always says, my friends in the desert.
Yeah, the the late scores in those games, that's somebody's going to be happy. Somebody's going to be upset with that. I did hear you and Zach talking last week. For Iowa State this year, especially the way the season started, it's not so much what seed they are this year,
right,
like in years past. It's more, he said it's getting past the Sweet 16. Yep. This year's team is expected to do that, but now with these injuries, some losses here late in the season, is that still the case? I mean, like you said, Sweet 16 at least, but this felt like a team that had a really good chance to get to the Elite Eight in the Final Four the first half of the season.
Yeah, I think they do. As long as Gilbert, when he comes back, is pretty much go. It's going to be. I think he really needs to play on Saturday, and just you got to test it out. And as long as he looks like he's 95%, I mean that's all anybody is this time of year. And again, they've only lost one game, a tip-in buzzer beater, when everybody's healthy, to the number one team in the country. That's their only loss with everybody. So you have to be encouraging. The one seed's out of the question now. That was, something that's never happened for Iowa State, and until the injury started happening, that was a real possibility and probably a should have been, but then people got hurt, and that's okay. 2 seed, I think they're probably going to end up being a 3 seed now, I would say. So hopefully they still can get to Milwaukee or Wichita. Those are the 2 closest venues. But you got to win some games here now. Arizona's not easy. BYU's playing much better, and then at Kansas State to end the season, and then you got the Big 12 championship tournament. I don't think you have to win it, but you can't lose that first game, whether you're in the Friday or Thursday, Friday. You got to get to the semis, I think. So to give yourself the best chance to get that 2 seed, and then probably at worst you're going to be a 3.
Is there any chance that they could go to fall worse than a 4, I should say, if they were to lose the first round of the?
Yeah, I mean, if you lose the next 3 games, and then obviously you go 4 to a 5, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, you could drop like a rock if you lose end the season on a 4-game losing streak or 5-game losing streak. So yeah, you could drop to a 4 or 5, but I don't think it's a obviously it makes the path a little bit harder, but it's one of those that those teams above you that say you end up with a 4, if you can beat those first 2 round games, which you're supposed to, that 4 or 5, that's great. That's the second round, and then you're fine with that, and then you got to go play a 1, and that sucks in the Sweet 16. But you can play with anybody as long as you're all healthy.
Yeah, it sounds like getting healthy is going to be the key for them. So yeah, it's things are not going real well for them right now. I saw part of the Houston game the other day. I think that was a Saturday or something. I was at the gym. It was on for a few minutes, but they've got a chance to finish out strong. Like you said, 3 regular season games. Was it 2 at home, 1 on the road? What's kind of your prediction for the final 3?
Yeah. Well, my prediction is to win all 3, as long as Gilbert plays. If Gilbert doesn't play, then I'm going to say they're going to lose at least 1, maybe 2. Because I think what we saw tonight was we just had way too many turnovers, and Gilbert has quite a few turnovers when he has the ball, but he does control it enough. And then also he's really, really good on ball and on the defensive end. And I think Oklahoma State got too many good looks tonight, and they hit shots. And I think Gilbert does a decent job of putting pressure on the guards and just making things hard for the other team's offensive end. So instead of them scoring 68 points, maybe they score 58, and you can squeak out, even though you didn't play very well, you can win 60-58 instead of losing 66 or 62-68 or whatever it was.
You do sound a little bit sick. I noticed that. So what?
Yeah, my nose is just I can't breathe out of my nose. Essentially, that's what it is. I don't feel bad, but I just can't breathe out of my nose.
How long you had that? You get something at school or
No,
what?
just yesterday. I noticed it kind of last night, and then I put Vicks Vapo Rub up my nose last night so I could actually sleep, and then but yeah, just kind of plugged in the nose. I don't feel bad, but just plugged up.
Well, hopefully that don't last too long.
No.
Hopefully it's getting toward the end of sick season. The spring coming around and March is almost here. So hopefully that's not going to last long for you.
Yeah, and this. I mean, it's been really nice here. I don't know how it's been out there. You're on the road? I can see that tonight. Where are you at tonight, Trev?
St. George, Utah. So
Okay.
I was going to see what Deacon Hill was up to after this.
Yeah, exactly. Utah Tech or whatever it is out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna call him up and let's go have a drink afterwards.
Yeah, well, we'll throw some catch about 2 yards away, see if we can complete some passes.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make a heck of a catches down by your ankles or way above your head or way off to the side. Your catch radius better be big, Trev.
It's not. I got short arms, so there's going to be plenty of drops in there. Is there anything to talk about Iowa men? I heard you and Zach talk about some of the coaching candidates last week. I mean, I know they beat Washington, with the worst team in the Big Ten. I mean, congrats, but I don't, other than who their next coach is, I don't really have much for the Iowa men.
No, I just pulled it up on my phone here. They are losing 56-38 with about 15 minutes left to go against Illinois, who's a decent team, NCAA tournament team, I expect. But the only thing that Illinois made waves on lately is Terrence Shannon Jr. hanging up his jersey upside down when he went into the Hall of Fame. You see that, Trev? That's unbelievable.
I did see that. I didn't read the whole story or thing, but it popped up on my Instagram. So yeah, that's I don't know how that happens, but
yeah, I mean I get it when you hook it, it might go upside down, but don't you look at it? I mean, right. Like a lot of things, like you just hold it up on the wall and it's upside down or something, and then you move it. I mean, you just take a look at it.
You would think so, but apparently not. So yeah, that I don't know how that happened. For the Iowa women, their last couple games, they've really played well. There's 2 losses, but in my opinion, they're playing the best they've played all season. The overtime loss at Ohio State,
right?
In that game, Lucy Olson had to hit 2 free throws to go to overtime, what she did. The flip side of that is she did miss some free throws earlier in the game that maybe if she would have made those 2 at the end, it would have been for the win. But regardless, she still made them to go to overtime, which was good to see. The loss against UCLA, a 2-point loss. One thing I like to see is Kylie Feuerbach is shooting the 3 more now. She's averaging 9.5 points the last 2 games. It seemed like all season there was lots of opportunities where she's wide open and she wouldn't take the shot, or she'd act like she was going to and then drive to the hoop and there'd be a turnover. I don't know if that was a coaching thing telling her not to shoot, but Kylie's a good 3-point shooter. So I'm glad that she's attempting some more threes. If we can get 7 to 10 points out of her a game moving forward into the tournament, Iowa is going to be a tough out. I mean, there are 3 games versus Ohio State, USC, UCLA. Their point differential in those 3 combined is just -3. So they're proving they can, if I looked earlier, they were a 7 seed right now, but previously they were an 8-9. The 8-9 winner has to play the 1 seed in the round of 32. They're probably going to lose that game, but they have proven that they can play with anybody just about. So I don't think
it could be USC, could be UCLA, and they're right there with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think any of those 1 seeds would be real excited to see Iowa, given the experience that they've had the last 2 years of all the players that had that tournament run. The tournament's not going to be too big for them. Lucy Olson has been playing a lot better down the stretch here, and like I said, Kylie's starting to shoot the ball a little bit more. So I know they've lost 2 straight, but I've been really impressed with them, and they're definitely going to be a tough outcome tournament time.
Yeah, speaking of Kylie Feuerbach, I was this last weekend. My son Tyler was in a basketball tournament up at Ames, and we played at all Iowa Techs, the gyms there and everything. And they have pictures plastered all over. National championship runner up, and Feuerbach was on that, coming from Illinois, and I just driving over to Ames once or twice a week, doing that. But it was Clark and Stolke and Feuerbach. Who else was it? Aubrey Jones. I mean, it's just the who's who of Iowa Jada, I can't even say it. What's their last name? The one that does all the TikTok stuff and everything.
I can't I can't say think of how to say
She's
her
really
last.
good friends with like
Mhm.
Caitlin. She's from Urbandale. She went to
Right.
Johnston. Doesn't play really, but good
Mhm.
friends with them. And she was on that team. And it was just kind of the who's who. That Dennebeer from Drake was on it. I mean, it was a who's who of Division One basketball players out of Iowa and the surrounding area. And just interesting to see who was all on that team. And then some of the ones that are on that team that you never heard of, whether they went and played a different sport in college or just didn't, they decided not to play or whatever.
Yeah, definitely a lot of talent there that you're talking. Um, I did hear you and just sticking with basketball in general, you and Zach talking last weekend about All-Star Weekend in the NBA and the
Yeah.
dunk contest. I kind of have a theory on at least the dunk contest. It's not so much, in my opinion, that some of the stars aren't doing it. And you tell me what you think, because I'm a casual on it. I feel like a lot of the dunks are just played out. I feel like I'm watching a lot of the same dunks. And it's not to take away that they're amazing. I mean, but I feel like I've seen a lot of people jumping over ladders, people, cars.
Yeah.
It
The
just
creativity's gone.
yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know if you can really fix that per se. There's still amazing dunks. I mean, there's very few humans that can do that stuff.
Right. But did you like my take that, used to be Michael Jordan got $100,000 in 1990 to win the dunk contest. Well, he was only probably getting paid $1 million a year. So that was like 10% of his salary.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's some of it? And now you get $100,000 and you're getting paid $60 million a year. Well, $100,000 doesn't mean a whole lot.
No, I definitely think that's a big part. And I'm going to piggyback off Zach's idea. What he said is, why don't we just open this up to high schoolers? And
Right.
one thing I was thinking about is on the men's side, you could have 50 participants, one from each state, come to the dunk contest, and you could have a women's bracket too, where you do like a 3-point contest. One representative from each state, fly them in on Thursday or whatever.
Right.
Friday night of All-Star Weekend, you have the opening round of the dunk contest and 3-point contest, and it gets smaller and smaller as the weekend goes on. Maybe before the All-Star game starts on Sunday night, you have the top 5 or 6 finals, and then halftime of the All-Star game, you have the final 2 or 3 in each compete during halftime of All-Star Weekend. I just think that would be a good way for the NBA to get us to know the young players better, because I'm sure it was the same for you growing up in junior high and even in high school. I can name the starting 5 for Duke, North Carolina, Michigan State, Iowa State, all those. I can name the starting 5 for all of them, and I wasn't even that big of a basketball fan. Cooper Flagg's about all I know right now. I just don't know the players. Whereas on the women's side now, for college, I could probably name 30 or 40 women's players and 3 or 4 men right now.
Well, and a lot of that problem is, and I listen to a lot of Iowa State stuff, and they've talked about it, is like, Tyrese Halliburton, one of the best players to ever come through Iowa State, great personality, does everything right. He's not going to be remembered as well as like a Melvin Edgem, George Niang, Monte Morris, Naz Long, even though he's a better player. But he was only there 2 years. Now, he didn't transfer. It wasn't one of those come in for a year and leave. And you can't blame him. He was a top 10, top 12 pick or whatever he was. He left early to go to the draft. So you can't blame him, but that's just hard when your players just don't stay. And Iowa State has like Curtis Jones and Keyshawn Gilbert, if they could get to the Elite Eight or Final Four, they're some of the best players ever and most influential players, but they're only there for 2 years. And it's tough. And a couple of the things that they do to hang your jersey and retire your number is you got to graduate and you got to do some certain things. And I don't even know if it's possible if you're not there for 4 years. Trev, you back? I think you froze.
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
back.
I think Trev froze for a second there. No, but just it's hard for Iowa State and any team, and you're right. And here's the other thing: just when you watch the NBA, and I don't know where any of these people go to college.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't go to Duke. I mean, the very few people, they don't go to North Carolina. They don't. They a lot of them went to some random school for a year, and they have all kinds of talent and lot of European players anymore, or they went overseas right away, or right now you got a little bit of that G League Ignite, which that's went away now, but now those, people are getting drafted and stuff from these. But yeah, I mean, you look at Iowa State's team, they're a top 10 team, and there's no certified NBA player there at all. Not one player.
If you look at one of the many reasons, one of the big reasons that Caitlin Clark is so famous, other than she's great and the whole state of Iowa backed her for all those years, it was that she was at Iowa for 4 years. She didn't blow up until junior season. Really, after that Indiana walk-off game winner, that's when it started to really build going in the tournament. But it was that junior year tournament run, knocking off South Carolina, the Angel Reese, the championship game, and then everybody's like, oh, wait, she comes back for another year. Oh, wait, Angel Reese comes back for another year. We get to see possibly round 2. I saw an article that the WNBA, during the CBA that they're going to have after this next season, there's some talks maybe of allowing one and done in women's college in the WNBA. If I was a commissioner of the WNBA or any decision makers, I would instantly say, no way we're doing this. We're not going to make the same mistake that the NBA and men's college basketball did. Part of the reason that the WNBA is exploding is because these women are staying for 4 years at a college.
And getting famous.
Gigi Watkins is, you think she's famous now, wait 2 more years. I mean, she's only a sophomore.
Right.
Caitlin, it was 4 years. Paige Beckers is 4 years. Angel Reese was at LSU for 2, but still it's multiple years. Asia Wilson, 4 years at South Carolina, I think it was, and some of the other big names. So I think it's a longevity. It's a slow build where you get to know these players over time. It's not just an overnight sensation.
Yeah, people forget, and you're 100% right. Caitlin's sophomore year, they got upset by Creighton in the round of 32.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because they were on a collision course to play Iowa State in the Sweet 16, and everybody thought it was going to happen. And Creighton, and their head coach is from Guthrie Center, Iowa. He's just a little bit older than I am. He beat Iowa in the second round, and then he beat Iowa State in the Sweet 16 round.
Yeah, that was a heck of a run by them. So, I mean, if Caitlin Clark could have gone one and done, let's say that was in play, so that she's in high school and they tell her, hey, go to Iowa for a year, come out, you'll be the first pick in the WNBA draft. She wouldn't have commercials. She wouldn't be teamed up with Nike, State Farm. 95% of the people that know about Caitlin Clark right now would have no clue who she is if she was a one and done women's player. And so if I was a decision maker, like I said, on the women's side, I'd be like, we're not going to make the same mistake that the NBA and the men's college basketball did, especially now with women can get paid in college. So that helps a little bit with not being allowed to go to the WNBA for 4 years.
Yeah, and I think that goes back into your WNBA with high schoolers. You can pay high schoolers. You can pay college kids. The NBA can straight up pay them somehow. And I don't know this, but watching wrestling, Gable Steveson is back wrestling for Minnesota. I didn't even know that. And I watched him pin Keeter from Iowa fast. And but I'm like, didn't he wrestle for WWE and won an Olympic gold medal and all this, and now he's back in college? I mean, I don't know wrestling. I was just surprised. I'm like, I didn't know that. So I mean, I don't know. Everybody gets paid. You can stay in college as long as you want. Good for them.
Yeah. So like I said, piggybacking off what Zach, his idea, I mean, maybe you have one representative. It's so-and-so from New Mexico, so-and-so from Montana, and it gets the entire country invested because there's a male and a female player from each state that's participating. They're going to be on TV, and it's a way to introduce us, or I should say me more likely, the casual fan. Okay, who are these players? Where are they? You could maybe do like a 30-second introduction with a bio. Right. Hey, I'm going to college here, or here are my top 3 schools. You get to know them before they get to college, then you can kind of follow their journey along. So I think it'd be worth trying. I mean, it really can't get any worse than it is right now.
No, and you travel to a lot more NBA towns and out west where college sports in general aren't as big. Is the talk on how bad the NBA is out there just as much as it is here? Or do they even talk about the NBA? I mean,
Well, the Nuggets are a big topic in Colorado just because they're really good.
Right.
No, the NBA the NBA is in a weird spot because for as bad as everybody says it is, they just signed a massive deal recently. Right. They're still talked about all the time. I mean, it's NFL, college football, and then hockey had their their 15 seconds of fame.
Right.
That's not going to last most likely, because it's a patriotic thing. Anytime you do, you get America going, that's going to help boost the ratings and stuff. But basketball, for as much as, and I agree, the NBA is in a weird spot, but it feels like for as much as they get crapped on all the time, and rightfully so, in my opinion, with a lot of stuff with the load management, they're still in the news. I mean, the sporting news all the time, though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they talk about LeBron every day on ESPN. I mean, right. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, it's not always good, but publicity is still publicity, even though they're bashing the NBA. They still talk about it every day.
Yes, I mean, NBA is, and yeah, you're right. Out west here, college sports aren't quite as big, but it depends where you go. I mean, as we know, football is still king, but if you take football out of it, the NBA still gets talked about all the time, especially right now because the NFL is over, and I know I didn't send you a rundown of this week, but I did have some combine stuff and just some upcoming NFL schedule stuff that we can get into for a little bit, since there's not a whole lot else to talk about other than just college hoops. Really, it seems like.
Right. That's really. I know you heard Zach and I talk about it last week, but good job on your win. Did you win money overall in the Daytona 500?
Yeah, so I heard what you said. So I had 10 drivers,
and
I had William Byron at 17-1, $10. So I got 180 back, but I had $87 combined on 10 drivers. So about $8.70 per driver. Some was a little bit more, some was less. So basically, what I do when I always pick between 8 and 12 drivers. This year I had 10. My goal is no matter who wins of my 10, I at least want to double up. And then there's some guys where I'll come close to tripling up on my money. So I basically doubled up on the money.
Yeah. Good. And like I said, our friend Doug DeCock also hit with it too. And I don't know what all he bet or ever, but he's good dude as well. Any other basketball topics? It's kind of Florida lost tonight. I think they were ranked 3rd now. It's really Duke and Auburn, I think, have separated themselves to everybody. And I know this isn't your wheelhouse, but Duke and Auburn, and then there's a little bit of a gap, I think. And then Florida, Houston, Alabama are kind of next. Michigan State, Tennessee, Iowa State I think are next. Iowa State might even fall down to this next group now, but then it's St. John's and A&M, Wisconsin, kind of in that group as well.
Are there, and maybe you don't know off the top of your head, but is there any sort of sleeper team that you could see going on a run that's not going to be one of the top 4 seeds in the tournament?
I would have to dive into that a little bit. Kansas would be in that situation. Preseason number 1. They beat Duke. They beat Michigan State. They're not playing good right now. But if they start clicking, they have all the talent in the world. So that would be a team that would qualify in that. They would be a 4 or 5. They fell out of the rankings for the first time in like 870 weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get online and get on the old KenPom rankings and see if I can find a team in there that's, what is it, top 30 offense, top 30 defense, or maybe it's top 20 offense, top 20 D. I mean, most of those teams are in the top 10 anyway, most likely. But
I'd say most of them are top 10 in both.
Right. I'll have to get on there and see if I can find 1 or 2 to maybe throw a little bet on, just so I got a team or 2 to root for outside of Iowa State. And now Drake had a big win over you and I the other day too, right?
You watch any of that? I watched the end of it. That's when I got home from Ames with Tyler's tournament. Just really good win. Won the Missouri Valley a share. I think they play tomorrow, and if they win that, then they win the whole thing by themselves. Really good game. You and I's another one of those teams that they're probably going to face each other down in St. Louis. And you just in general, it's scary if you're Drake, because the problem with conferences like that now is it doesn't matter what you do. They got they're 25-3 or whatever they are, but if they don't win the Missouri Valley title, they're not going to the tournament. And that's unfortunately the reality, and it sucks, but that's what it comes down to, those 3-4 days in March in St. Louis.
Yeah, so the regular season champion, that it's got to be the tournament. They've got to win that to basically.
Yep.
So second place probably isn't even going to have a team out of there.
Probably not. Like last year, Indiana State. Remember, that big guy from Indiana State. What'd they call him? Kareem.
Yeah, I think I know. I think I remember who
Yeah,
you're talking about.
they were really good, and Drake upset them to get into the tournament. I think they were the 1 seed. And they didn't go. They went to the NIT. It's just unfortunate that those small conferences just don't get more than one, and unfortunately, it's going to get less and less. Even though they're going to expand this tournament, which I don't like at all. That's a whole different topic for another day. But it's going to go to 72 or 76, I think, is what I read. But it's just going to be more middle of the pack, Big 12, Big 10, SEC teams, ACC. I mean, you're going to get the 16 and 14 team that has 8 quad 1 wins and losses, and Drake's going to be 29 and 3, but only have 1 quad 1 win. I mean, that's just going to be the argument.
Yeah, with 64 teams plus all the play-ins, you think you could find a place for a team like a Drake or others throughout the country at these smaller conferences. But yeah, when the big conferences are running everything, the Big 10, SEC, Big 12, ACC, obviously the networks want more of those teams in bigger markets.
Yeah, when Drake and Bradley are playing somehow in the NCAA tournament, I mean, yes, people still watch, but it is not like Iowa State versus Duke. I mean, you could put in a lot of different teams, but yeah, I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Yeah,
we like the upsets a little bit, but in the big scheme of things, everybody wants the big dogs.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I mean, the opening round, the round of 64 and the round of 32, that's where the smaller schools, it probably really doesn't matter because everybody's watching. Right. I think it's once you get to the Sweet 16 and on, you got to have some of the blue bloods in there. And typically they always do.
Right. The first 2 rounds you can pick your upsets, but if you start living on upsets in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, you're going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah, you get the occasional team that'll go on a run to, in the Elite 8 or Final Four, but yeah, most of the time once you start getting down the Sweet 16 and on, most of your teams, like seven or so of your Elite 8 teams, better be the usual suspects.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Let's move on to the NFL. We'll give you the floor here. Combine is rapidly approaching. When is it?
Start Thursday. So defensive linemen, linebackers will start on Thursday. It'll go through Sunday. And obviously Iowa's got 7 participants there. Iowa State's got 5. So it's going to be a big weekend for a lot of those players. And really, I was going to text you this. We've talked about the Combine before plenty of times on here. There's a few things with the Combine. One is it's a big social event. For a lot of deals are going to start getting done, contracts, trades. Guys are going to, a lot of these people that are in scouting, GMs, they go to the same restaurants, the same steakhouses, and rent out the same room. So those guys are going to go there. I think Jimmy Sexton, who's Matt Stafford's agent, is planning to meet with the Rams. So I'm sure they're going to get something worked out. But this is where a lot of deals either get started or really get the ball rolling and get finalized this week.
Yes. So I think it was Murph and Andy that was talking about it today. The 7 guys for Iowa and the 5 for Iowa State. Who do you think makes the biggest impact in the NFL from either side? Or who would you say is the best NFL prospect from either side? I guess maybe that's a better.
Well, I mean, right out of the gate, I would go Caleb Johnson because I think whatever team he's going to go top 50 in my opinion as of right now. Darian Porter he's got a chance to do that too, though, depending what his times are. Jaden Higgins is a big receiver. If he has a good,
that's the one from Iowa State that. Now, I do think Darian Porter is going to get drafted first from Iowa State, but I would have, unless there's an injury or something, Jaden Higgins is your 10-year NFL receiver, and I also think Jalen Noel is as well. Obviously injuries can derail anything, but I think those 2 receivers for Iowa State is kind of just what the NFL wants. They're not flat. They're not ever going to be a number 1, but I think both of them can have nice careers in the NFL as receivers.
Yeah, you got Jaden Higgins, who I think is 6'4", Jalen Noel, who's 5'11", give or take. I think for Porter, a big thing is he's 6'4". Is that right?
Yeah, and he came in as a receiver, and he's a track champion. He is fast. They moved him to defense and corner, And he's going to be one of those guys they're going to draft him, and he's probably not going to start at corner right now, but he's going to start on every special teams, which that's what he did at Iowa State, was a star on special teams, and then just kept earning more and more time on the defensive side. And I think that's exactly what he's going to do in the NFL. And if you get a certain matchup where you need a big guy, no one's going to outrun him, and he's 6'4" instead of 5'10", 5'11", like a lot of D-backs.
Yeah, that height, if he has some good speed, good vertical, three cone and all that type of stuff, being 6'4", he could really jump up. I mean, you got Luke Lachey, the tight end. Iowa tight ends usually always end up good.
I would say
that
was Andy Fales' pick. He's like,
yeah.
He's like, Caleb Johnson, running backs are still kind of hit or miss. He goes, Lachey, he's been hurt, maybe not utilized big time at Iowa, but he goes, well, either was George Kittle, and look what he's done in the NFL. Lachey could be the guy too.
Yeah, and then you got one of my favorite Iowa players, Sebastian Castro, who I think if he goes to the right team could really have a nice NFL career. So it's a big weekend. And then what the combine does is it sets the market for the players. It doesn't determine how good they're going to be. It just sets the market price. So let's say you and I are working for the Bears and we're looking at a couple defensive backs, a couple corners, and they're the same height, same weight, and we have them both listed as a 4th round grade, someone that we can get later in the draft. We need to add some depth there. Well, the combine happens and one corner runs a 4.5 40 and he's right at middle of the pack on the vertical. Okay, he probably stays right at that 4th round grade. The other corner, who we like just the same, goes out, runs a 4.33 and has the best vertical of the weekend. Well, we know, okay, well, he just jumped up to the 2nd round. So that's the price you're going to have to pay. It's like, everything's online now, but if you go to look at a new house on the same street and they're right beside each other, 2 houses, and they both look nice. You go inside one house, it's 1.5 baths, and the kitchen's okay, but kind of small. You go to the next house right next door, it's 2.5 baths, and it's a bigger, nicer kitchen. It's got an island in it. You're probably going to have to pay more for that house, right? So again, it doesn't determine how good they're going to be. It's the starting price. It's the market price that gets set. So some of these guys are going to jump up. It doesn't mean that they'll be any better or any worse. It's just the price you have to pay to get them.
I completely understand that, and it is the underwear Olympics, but like you said, the difference between a 4.5 and a 4.3 does matter on the football field.
Yeah, if you got the same grade on them, I mean, that can make a lot of difference. There's some other drills too out there that history says if players don't break this time, like a 3-cone drill for defensive linemen, their chances of being good are pretty slim. And like I said, it's a lot of networking. St. Elmo's a famous steakhouse there in Indianapolis. A lot of guys will go there and they'll get deals done. I mean, deals are typically always easier to get done in person. Go sit down, have a nice steak, a couple glasses of wine or bourbon. Everybody starts relaxing. It's usually a good way to get deals done. So that's what this week really is. And then March 12th will be free agency will get started. The franchise tag deadline's coming up. Speaking of Matt Stafford, I would have to think they're going to get something done. I don't know why he would want to leave there. I mean,
is there a reason?
His contract. He's not getting paid what he deserves compared to other quarterbacks. So he wants a bump in pay, which is understandable. I think he probably wants a little bit of an extension. If I'm the Rams, I'd try to look at something at 2 years because he's getting up there in age. I think he's 36 now. So give him a little bit more money, because if you look at what they've done in the draft the past 2 years, they've hit on a ton of draft picks. If you remember, they were 1 or 2 plays away from beating the Eagles.
Right.
They're in the playoffs. So, I mean, they've got a team ready to compete. I mean, if Stafford's going to go to the Giants or Tennessee, I mean, what's he going to do there? I'd rather stay in LA. You've got that Sean McVay. The Rams are willing to spend money on players. They've proven that they're aggressive. I mean, the only other teams out there really that he would have a fighting chance with would be Minnesota, and the Colts would be all right, but I don't know about that. And then if you look at a lot of people are linking the Steelers in, but I don't know if the Steelers have as many pieces on offense as people think. I mean, I really like George Pickens coming out of the draft. Remember a few years ago, and he's not a bad receiver, but he's already a mental case there.
I'd say he's a head case.
He's a head case, and that if I'm Matt Stafford, I want to stay in LA, and that's what they want too. So I would assume they're going to get something done.
And just on the NFL, Aaron Rodgers, where's he going to end up? Because it does.
He's in Southern California working out right now. So if
he does want to play,
if I'm Aaron Rodgers, the place I want to go the most is the Rams if they trade Stafford.
Right.
And then the next team would be the Vikings.
Right. That's what I think too.
And then a tier down from those two would be Pittsburgh and the Colts.
Because the Vikings don't you have to let Darnold go if you're the Vikings?
I would see what you could get done, but I'd want to stay in contact with his agent because I'd at least want to bump up the price that other teams have to pay.
Yeah.
Get a bit.
You don't want to pay him ultimate money because it might have been a one-hit wonder.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, yeah, if he goes somewhere else and is really good, you're going to really hate yourself.
But it all depends on how their J.J. McCarthy does. But I think a good place for Sam Darnold would be Pittsburgh or the Colts. Pittsburgh's they're picking whatever they're picking 20-some. They're not going to get one of the two quarterbacks more than likely. So I think he would be a good player for a couple years to fill that void.
Yeah, just everything's fascinating. Just the player movement now, and Myles Garrett wants to trade, but then now the Browns say they're not going to trade him. I mean, I guess they don't have to, but I don't know. It's weird. And then you got the NBA where they want to trade and whatever, and they get it done. They just say, "Screw you, I'm not playing." The NFL's not quite like that.
No, and if I'm buried with the Browns, I wouldn't want to trade Garrett either, but he may force their hand here eventually. And with that Deshaun contract that they gave out, they're in a pretty tough spot right now. If you look at the NFL draft, the first 9 picks, and we did this last year, I told you one of these teams is going to surprise. But if you look at the draft, you got the Titans, Browns, Giants, Patriots, Jaguars, Raiders, Jets, Panthers, Saints. I think that's the top 9 picks. One of them is going to be in the playoffs next year or next season. Yeah, one of them will make it.
Yep, absolutely.
Last year we went through and we said I ran off like 8 or 10 teams. Well, I think 3 of those teams ended up making the playoffs. So there's always a surprise team, maybe 2. So I don't know who it's going to be yet. We'll have to see how the free agency and the draft plays out. I did tell you a couple weeks ago I was going to do a little test just for fun of players that I think are going to be good just based on their name.
Oh, yeah.
Their name only. So I did have some names written down, and these are not like first round guys, at least not yet. But I want to hear what you think. So I'll start with Jack Nelson, offensive tackle, Wisconsin.
Sounds like a big white guy from Wisconsin.
Yep, that sounds like a 10-year starter for the Broncos. Sticking with offensive tackles, you got Anthony Belton from NC State. That sounds like a 7-time Pro Bowler for the Baltimore Ravens. Doesn't? I mean, that's just a good name for an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
You got Jalen Reed, the safety for Penn State. Jalen Reed's a good safety name, I think.
Yep.
Dylan Sampson, running back for Tennessee.
Oh, that one's not as much, but yeah.
Not as much. And then a couple linebackers. Jack Kaiser, linebacker, Notre Dame.
Yeah, and he's your scrappy, tough white guy from Chicago suburb. I don't know where he's from, or he's a Rudy type guy.
He's a future Hall of Famer, is what he is. If you came in and said, "Hey, Mr. GM boss, I like this Jack Kaiser from Notre Dame," I'm saying, "Hey, give him $100 million. I don't care. That's a good name. We're signing him right now." And then Danny Stutzman, linebacker from Oklahoma. That's another good linebacker name right there.
Anytime you got stud in your name, you better be good.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to do it. I've always thought it'd be fun to write down players that have cool names or they look cool in their jersey, just because the draft is a crapshoot anyway. So I've always thought it'd be a cool test to just write down. Those are a few that I had written down. So we'll see how they just kind of as a joke how they do in the NFL.
Yeah, Jack Kaiser, isn't he a 6-year guy at Notre Dame? I mean, like he is Mr. Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think that's right. But it's all about the name. I mean, Jack Kaiser, linebacker, Notre Dame. Sign me up.
Right. Absolutely. All right. What else you got, Trev?
I don't. I think that was about it. I don't know. Is there anything else going on? The NFL is going to play a bunch of more games outside the United States. There's still. I told you about 4 years ago, there will be an NFL team outside the United States someday. I still believe in that.
Do you think it happens by 2030?
Maybe. I think it'd be right around that time.
Yeah.
I think it'll be right around that time if they do it. So they're definitely expanding. They already own the U.S. market. We've talked about that.
Yep.
More women are watching in the United States. Now it's time to go global, which they've been doing for a while. So they're going to keep adding these games. I did see the Travis Kelce's coming back.
Is that for sure? Or just the reports from the GM or whatever on their talks.
I don't know if he's come out. I saw it just a few minutes before we got started. I was traveling today, so I'd have to go back and double check if he actually confirmed it or not. But I think he still had like 90 some catches last year, 900 yards. So like I said, there's some people saying he needs to retire. Like he can come back for another year.
Yeah, he doesn't have to. I mean, he can if he wants, but he's still he's top shelf tight end. Just like Rob Gronkowski when he retired, he was still a top shelf tight end. It's truly if you just want to do it or not. It does take a toll on your body, and they aren't as good as they once were, but they're still really, really good.
Yeah, he's not what he was 5 years ago, but you're still going to get production out of him throughout the season. He's going to have 3 or 4 big games, probably versus some bad defenses where he takes advantage. So, yeah, if I'm the Chiefs, I'd want him back for one more year. I would like to see if he'd want to take a pay cut just to open up some of that cap, and Mahomes is going to have to do a little bit of that too.
They're both going to have to do it, I think, and I think they will. They understand what this is about.
Especially Mahomes, he knows he's trying to chase Brady. That's really the only guy he's got in front of him. So that's a story. The tush push sounds like they're wanting to get that banned. Packers. It won't just be the Packers. There's other teams. About a month ago,
but they're the ones that I think officially did it.
They officially did it, and what they're going to try to do. This was a while back, but I saw that there was a report that Roger Goodell didn't like the tush push. Well, Roger will try to take as much heat for this as he can because we've talked about it before. Roger Goodell's a punching bag. He's a bulletproof vest. He takes the bullets for the league, or as many bullets as he can. So you hear people all the time that say
he'll take every bullet and he'll get paid $100 million and smile to the bank every time, and the owners will love him for it, for taking all the bullets instead of them.
Yeah, and he's one of the best, that the NFL's ever had. I mean, he's had to go through a lot of stuff, the social media era, COVID, sports betting now. I mean, he's had a lot to overcome, and the NFL's making more money than they ever have. So, people always say Roger Goodell sucks. That couldn't be any further from the truth.
Right. And again, every commissioner is still just the face of it. They are told what to do by the owners. Rob Manfield, Gary Bettman for the NHL, they all do. I mean, what's the NBA guy, Silver? Yeah, they're all just told what to do by the owners. So don't kid yourself.
Yeah, they're the punching bag. They get paid a lot of money to be the punching bag and take all the heat. So now the NFL's in a really good spot, but things are going to start heating up. What do we got about March Madness starts at the end of March?
It'll be like the first game is March 20th, I believe.
March 20th, okay.
Because everything's kind of a week later this year, just in general. Like I noticed our golf calendar got put together and everything's just a week later. So just the way the calendar fell. So,
and then I know the women's college championship will end a week later. Will be the Masters, or that following week will be the Masters tournament. Sunday will be obviously the final day, and then I believe Monday after the Masters will be the WNBA draft. The WNBA starts on May 14th or 15th, I think, this year. And then I was looking at the Fever's starting lineup. Last year, their starting projected starting five, averaged 85 points a game. And then Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham on the bench. They're well over 100 points. So there's a real possibility that the Fever are going to be the highest scoring team in the WNBA this season. And I think, it'll be tough to win a championship in her second year for Caitlin Clark, but this is going to be about as good a time as any because there's only 8 teams in the WNBA right now, and they're going to expand here soon. So now's kind of a time to take advantage because the playoffs there's not as many games or as round in the playoffs as there will be in.
I think Trump froze again, but yeah, just in general, the more games you play, the more chances for upsets. Now it does dilute for a little while the players. Right now every team's really good because there's only 8 teams. You go to 10 teams or whatever, that's 30 more players that get a job that right now don't have a job. So the average team, talent-wise, will go down a little bit. That's the reality of everything. When you have more jobs, which is a good thing. I mean, there needs to be more jobs because there's a lot of really good players that can't make it in the NBA, and I can't believe they can't make it in the WNBA. But it will dilute the talent a little bit just because that's the more people you put in it, the more it will.
Yeah, and that's why you saw a lot of the free agents or these players, they just signed 1-year contracts because after this season is going to be the new CBA. We know they're going to ask for a lot more money. Besides that, I don't know. It's not, I don't know what else they're going to ask for. There'll be multiple things, but obviously more pay is going to be number one.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, I'm a teacher in Southern Iowa, and I get paid more than Caitlin Clark. Now, not overall, but to do my job and to do her job, I get paid more money than her. That's insane.
Yeah, and we'll see. They have to start turning a profit here eventually. It's been whatever 30 years, and they've never turned a profit. That day may be coming. We'll have to see. I mean, with the explosion to Caitlin Clark, that's one thing. We'll see if Paige Beckers, Juju Watkins, and some of these others can bring even more fans. But eventually, they're going to have to start turning a profit. However, however they're going to do that. But they can't continue to lose money for 30 more years.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's money. The WNBA can do it if they want, but do they want to?
Yeah, it's a weird business. It's the only one out there that I can think of that, for 30 straight years or whatever it is. I don't know if it's exactly 30, but you lose money year in and year out, and everybody just keeps their job. So most businesses aren't like that. So hopefully with Caitlin Clark and then some of the other players coming up, they can kind of get that changed. But no, that's kind of what our schedule's looking like for the next 2 or 3 months here, and then we'll have summertime. But at least I know we found out last summer with the WNBA, that gave us a little bit extra to talk about.
Right.
Those first 10 or 15 games were rough.
Right. But it was good to talk. And just as always, I want to thank Steve Shetler. He kind of forces us to do this every week. He doesn't force us, but it definitely gets us going. And, there's times we might take a week off, but we know we can get on that platform. And, I don't look at that every week and everything, but last week I looked, there was 400 and some views on that. And I want to thank those people that do look at that and watch that and then turn over and listen to our podcasts. And, Facebook has a few hundred views and YouTube has a few views and everybody just listens in general. And we can't thank you enough. And I know Dan Bryce at DB Landscaping helps kind of Steve Shetler at supporting us and just in general there. So we just want to thank those people and thank everybody for helping us out and thank everybody for listening.
Yeah. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to Dan, the man, for supporting us on there and everybody that's listening. So, I think we got basically stuff now that we've kind of figured out how this goes. We've got stuff year round to talk about now.
Yeah. It does help with Caitlin Clark going to the WNBA a lot. Yeah. I will say that, which she's helped everybody and us included. So
that's right. No, it'll be fun to see how they do this year. And then we've got some other stuff. I've got some stuff, some ideas, some lists and stuff that we'll do kind of in the summertime when it's a little bit slower.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap up tonight. I need to go put Vicks Vapor Rub all over my face and try to get some sleep here. I'm going to go watch Eddyville Blakesburg try to go to the state tournament, girls basketball tomorrow against my old high school, Adair Casey Guthrie Center, ACGC, which is really weird for me to say because growing up we hated Guthrie Center. But they are one school now, so I'm going to go watch them in Norwalk tomorrow night and see who wins. There are a couple friends and classmates and stuff that have kids playing for Adair Casey, and then obviously I've known the Eddyville girls for a long time. Ref a lot of their games growing up, so
well, good.
Do that.
Go enjoy that and get to feeling better.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, and thanks for everybody for listening. And again, Spotify, Podbean, Apple, everything. I share it out on all of our stuff. Subscribe, to our YouTube page, our Facebook page, our Instagram page, whatever. I put out a thing today. I do want to thank my daughter Paige. She made that graphic today for us that I put out. She's kind of getting a little bit interested in doing things like that. So I asked her to make something, and she did that. So that was good today. And we'll talk again next week, Trev.
All right. Shout out to Paige and have a good night.
All right. See you later. Go Cyclones, even though they were not good tonight.